Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Outhay Lovan with Let's UnWine, powered by VisiPay, here live at ETA TRANSACT in Las Vegas. Hey everyone, welcome Genevieve to Let's UnWine podcast booth. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for asking me. I'm so excited to technically be back for a second time.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Yeah, like you and I actually had an idea of what started with the employees at VisiPay into some sort of just an education around that. And then it just blossomed to this. So it's pretty cool to think of just the collaboration that we have together and, you know, what this has turned into. So thank you.
Yeah, no, and I remember it was more, pulling people in, regardless of gender and having real conversations, right? Because people and payments come from all different backgrounds.
Yes.
And so, just having those conversations of here's where I was at one point, here's where I am now, and kind of what you normally typically don't see kind of behind the perception, right?
Yeah. I mean, you told your story and that's the story that needed to be heard.
Yeah.
So I actually want to ask you a question. You are actually speaking on Friday on a topic that I think is pretty cool. Breaking barriers, empowering women in payments through entrepreneurship and leadership. Yeah. So obviously, you know firsthand what this is all about. I'm going to have you give us a high-level overview of what this session is.
Yeah, no, so I'm really excited about the panel. I actually had submitted a different proposal on confidence. But I mean, when they asked me to be on this panel, I was like, absolutely, this is amazing. And what I really love about it is that we have 4 different speakers that come from very diverse backgrounds. So we have someone who, myself, I've been an entrepreneur for the last almost 3 years. We'll say between 2 to 3. A one-woman show, right? And we have someone who's, and being 20 years in payments, right? And then we have someone else who started about a year ago. She and I actually met last year when I was speaking in Chicago on AI, and she doesn't come from the payments world. Yeah. And so she's kind of new to payments, starting her own company. And then you have someone who's been, has had her own company for 20 years.
Right.
So a very seasoned entrepreneur. And then we have someone else who's been doing it for, I'd say about 6 years or so, I believe, as a founder, but 20 years in corporate. Mm-hmm. So we have lots of different perspectives. I recently went back to full-time work and my company approved my outside business activity. So I was really excited that I could keep going and have their support. It was a huge win for me because I was a little scared it was going to kind of crush my entrepreneurial dreams, and they were fully supportive.
Well, and everyone has a side hustle.
Yes.
Everyone has a side hustle.
Yeah.
So it could be anything, but there is something.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you in regards to your session. And I know this because firsthand hearing your story, there's no doubt that you had faced the triple glass ceiling, right? Again, your journey, your story. So what advice would you give your younger self?
I struggle with this question because part of me wants to say nothing because then I wouldn't have become who I am today.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I think I've even thought about, I was writing, so I'm working on my book still. I'm really excited about that. I was writing on the plane today. That's where I kind of find my nirvana, looking out at the clouds and reflecting. And I was thinking about different roles and how I've talked to my kids. We've moved a lot. And so I talk about different houses. Yeah. And we really love this house because of this. We really love this house because, and I'm like, every house has pros and cons.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like our jobs are kind of the same thing. Like every decision, right? You make the best decision at the time, at that moment, with the information you have. And it's really just about what you then become on that journey. Mm-hmm. And then I really now focus more on the legacy that I'm leaving behind and who I can help along the way.
Right.
And so when you talk about, I think there's lots of definitions of the triple glass ceiling.
Yeah.
What I've been talking about that kind of takes a little bit different approach has been a 3. So if you take 3 chain links that kind of are you as a person, and it's your dreams, that's one chain link. it's your responsibilities as a person, right? So that could be, whether it's to friends, to family, right, to your job, whatever you define responsibilities as. And then it's, your financial security.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like if you lean too far over toward the dream side, maybe one of the other chain links starts to break.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's where we, as, strong women, ambitious women that have multiple titles, whether it's, the cook at home or, the CFO at home, right? Or I also take care of my father-in-law because my mother-in-law passed 2 years ago suddenly. So we had to take on that. A lot of people don't talk about that era where you're sandwiched, where you're taking care of your kids and then you're having to take care of your parents.
Yeah.
And that's been really, really hard. And no one prepares you for that. And kind of like having kids, but it's just kind of next level while you're still trying to, have your household, fulfill your dreams, right? Make money to pay bills. And it's just a lot.
Yeah.
But I think we overcome. And I think that's why it's really important, just like you and I, when we, created this, talking about the folks at VisiPay, was to create a community. And so we're going to talk about a little bit about that on the panel Friday. I'm kind of steering away from mentorship. I've had multiple mentors over my career. I've been a mentor, and I'm more focused at this point in my career, at least, on building community.
Yeah.
And having different groups of people to lean on for different task.
Yeah.
So like when I'm trying to break into paid motivational speaking, I reached out to people who are doing that for a living, who have never been in my kind of community, if you will, beforehand. Yeah. Like, how are you doing that? How are you creating, right? How are you getting these paid speaking gigs? And so that's been kind of a new community for me. But I think that's really important. And again, to have kind of a community of people, even within payments, that work at different companies.
Yeah.
So you can bounce like, hey, this happened at work. Like, have you all experienced this? Like, how do you think I should handle it? It's really important to kind of seek that outside advice. And even honestly, I've been having really candid conversations with people in regards to pay and comp. And it's like, it is things that, of course, if you feel comfortable with, that we should share, because what you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
And, if you don't have those conversations, you're potentially, being underpaid.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, my last question for you. If you could collaborate with anyone, who would it be?
Just blue sky.
Just anybody. Yep.
Well, I think my ultimate dream, and I probably never shared this with anyone outside of my husband, is to finish my book.
Yes.
And I would love for it to be adapted into a movie or a series.
Yes.
Because it is a memoir, part part how-to. And so I think I would just love to then collaborate with whoever would play me in the movie.
Yeah, let's cheers to that.
I mean, I have some ideas.
Reese Witherspoon.
I don't know, I thought about like Margot Robbie. I'm like, who kind of maybe I look like, and I've talked about my husband, like who would play him. I think that would be the ultimate dream for a collaboration, and kind of me feeling like I've kind of made it.
Right. That's your next phase of your journey, right? Is finishing the book and seeing where that goes and following that road. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so maybe it is motion picture.
That's my dream from like, I'm like the little small town girl,
Hey.
But I'm like, why not dream big?
Exactly.
Right?
Go big, go home. All right. I'll cheers to that.
Cheers.
Thank you, Genevieve.
Thank you.
Hi, Dina.
Hi.
Welcome to Let's UnWine podcast. I'm so thankful that you're joining us today.
I'm so happy that you invited me to this very awesome little venue within this massive venue. It feels really intimate.
Yeah.
And I love the concept.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Dina, you are the CEO at Payments and Partnerships in Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Yes.
That is amazing. CEO, female leader.
Thank you. It wasn't a grand master plan. I actually started in corporate, and I was looking for opportunities to really create my own path, career longevity, career growth, making an impact. And I went from sort of corporate to consultancy, and over the years just built my practice little by little, grew my team, grew the types of clients we had, Wow. And it's been an amazing journey. And certainly it's not what I thought it would look like when I set out, but it's been pretty incredible.
That's amazing. And how many employees do you have?
We have a team of 10.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. So I actually want to talk about your topic a little bit. On Friday, you'll be talking about a topic titled Breaking Barriers, Empowering Women in Payments Through Entrepreneurship and Leadership. So at a high level, tell us what this session is about.
It's going to be a very interesting session. So I encourage folks to really show up because there'll be a panel of women that are at different places from a career perspective and their journey of entrepreneurship. So Erin, who has been, running their company for 20 years, myself for 6, and then a couple of folks that are just, starting out. And so I think that, different life cycles of business and how as women we need to navigate those different areas of what our businesses need is a really interesting discussion. And as well as those pivot points that help you decide where you go with your business. So different barriers could be challenges, but also opportunities for sure.
And obviously, what you're doing today, definitely you can relate to this topic in hand. So my question for you, what are the biggest challenges women face when transitioning from corporate roles to fintech or payment entrepreneurship? And how can they overcome them to build successful ventures?
So I really work with women, and it's really my purpose. It's something that I discovered in my career when I was really looking for purpose, when my career was sort of, we were exiting a business in Canada when I was with JP Morgan Chase, and I ended up starting to do a lot of mentoring and speaking and volunteering. And so working with women, one of my biggest counsels for them is leading up to any change, you have to really know who you are, build your brand, and own a network.
Yes.
So you have to be ready for that change when you decide you want to go from corporate to entrepreneurship.
Right.
You have to be ready. There's preconditions for success. And those preconditions mean that you can't hide behind a job title or a company brand.
Exactly.
You have to really sit in your own brand and the power of what you can do and the value that you can contribute.
Right.
And so I think for women, that means taking time from working 150% to be high achievers to stealing a bit of that time back for yourself so that you can invest in you, your brand, your network, and the equity that you're building in the market.
I love that. I love that because you're right. I think, sometimes selfishly, especially female mothers, we tend to not think of ourselves.
Yeah.
We tend to think of the people that we want to take care of. And it's time where you need to self-reflect. Think about who you are. Who do you want to become? I mean, still today, I'm at 45 years old. And I say, you know what? What do I want to be when I grow up? Oh, I want to be like her. You know what I mean? I still say those words today.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's awesome advice. I love it. Okay. My next question for you. And it kind of goes in hand in what we're talking about. So what's the best career lesson you've learned?
The best career lesson I learned, I call it Me Inc.
Me Inc?
Right.
Okay.
So I was very grateful to have experienced career derailment very early in my career. And it was during a recession. It was 3 weeks before I was married. I got laid off. And I worked for the top ad agency in Canada during a time where all the clients were just cutting back budgets. And that was such an eye-opener because it really, for me, validated the opportunity to own my own course. Right. And I think that is a very empowering thing as a man and a woman, but especially for women, as we sort of go through those different phases of life, you say, as a mother, as a wife, as a partner, as a daughter, we are often pulled in a lot of directions. So it's really important that we own our path and we manage the energy that we expend, and we watch and determine what will give us back energy, because then we'll be better for our families.
Right.
And that sometimes comes at the sacrifice of spending time with girlfriends, for example.
Yes.
That's something I realize is like what really brings me energy is spending time with like-minded women that get it, that understand, and it can, I call it's better than therapy, right?
Yeah.
You have an evening away from your family, but you're so much better for it. So I think that notion of almost being a business before you're a business is really important. So think about it as Me Inc., right? And how am I managing myself as a business?
I love that. And I always think of like, I'm over drama. And now it's like, I hear this analogy a lot and I'm like, this is so true. The me versus me. I'm not competing against you. I'm competing against myself.
Absolutely.
How can I be better? How can I do better? What things I can do to grow myself? So that's awesome. I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dina, I appreciate you joining me on Let's Wine podcast.
I love it. Cheers.
Kathryn, thanks for joining me for Let's Unwine here at TRANSACT 2025.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we are live. So, founder of Kmiotech Advisor, tell us about this.
Kmiotech Advisors came out of really moving into what the next part of my career journey is. It's really a love letter to being part of this industry and really growing here. I'm advising on marketing and go-to-market strategies for small startups and scale-ups in the Fintech community primarily, with an adjacency to payments, which is a community I love here.
Yeah.
So as a former TSYS, as a former Fortis, this feels like home here at TRANSACT.
Yeah. And as you should, right? You have so much knowledge in this industry, and you got to share that knowledge. And I love that you're doing this for yourself. Good for you.
Thank you.
So I know you're speaking later this afternoon. Your session specifically is titled Embedded Payments and the Rise of Digital Identity, Redefining Secure Transaction. Do you want to give us a high-level overview of what this session is about?
So a lot of embedded payments is about seamless transactions. How do we create that seamless user experience or customer experience as we're transacting, as we're moving the money? And with that comes, how do we build trust and create a level of security in that transaction?
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from. Is how do I know that Outhay is really the one making that transaction? How do we verify that?
Right.
How to, in a secure way that still maintains that speed and seamlessness?
Right.
So that's where that's really born out of, and that digital identity factor of, right, is the person on the end the person that they say they are?
Exactly. I actually had a recent experience about that, because I tried to load one of my credit cards on my husband's phone. And I went through a lot of security hoops, and I was like, man, this is just too much work. Never mind. I give up. Because he wanted to use my credit card for a purchase. Anyways, I'm looking forward to this session. It's really interesting,
It's super exciting. I think it's what we need to be thinking about, especially as we think about fraud, risk, scams, like what's going on in the payments ecosystem. But then also looking at the verification of who you are and who you say you are, right? And how that's included.
Yeah, and times are changing, so we need to change with the times for sure.
Absolutely.
So my last question for you is, what made you say this is the conference that you needed to attend?
This is home, right? Payments. This side of payments is home to me. It's where I, after having a career in subscriptions and in the media publishing world and in insurance through AIG, it's the place that welcomed me and gave me opportunity. when I came into TSYS in 2017. So it's been a fast and furious and ever-changing learning curve that I continue to be curious about, looking at those adjacencies with fintech and payments and how that's changing, and how partnership is driving so much business in between the different ecosystems that play well together. This is the place to be if you want to talk payments.
Exactly. I love it. And I know you've been here many, many times. And so, yeah, you're right. This is the feeling of home for you.
Yes.
Good for you. All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's cheers.
Oh. Cheers.